Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in my last video I installed new turnbuckles and new electric jack heads onto the Palomino camper here, and that has saved me a ton of time in loading and unloading the camper into and out of the truck. But in the spirit of continuous improvement, I have a couple of more interesting upgrades for the turnbuckles and the jacks. Okay, let's address the turnbuckles. So this is the Torklift FastGun turnbuckle that I showed in my last video. And to adjust the internal spring tension on these, first the lever needs to be up, and then you slide this O-ring up against the body of the turnbuckle. Then you can hook it on, close the lever, and then you check for this gap, and it should be 1/4 inch between the O-ring and the body. And if it's not, then you need to unhook it and then screw this hook in or out as necessary, rehook it again, and then close the lever and recheck the gap. And this is Torklift's brand new FastGun Apex turnbuckle. Now, once again, Torklift was kind enough to send me a set of these for assessment, and I won't have any road testing done yet for this video, but what I will do is I'll give my honest first impressions. I'll go through the assembly process and the installation. I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but you know, sometimes when you hold something in your hand, you get an idea of the overall quality and the heft, the materials that they're using, the overall fit and finish, and the overall design gives a very positive impression. You know, these are using a lot of stainless steel. The body is stainless steel, as is the hardware. And just like the other Torklift turnbuckles, these are made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. On the Torklift website, they show these mounted using their internal payload anchor system. But as you can see, they give you a nice long stainless steel threaded hook, which means that this should be usable for a lot of different setups. You just need to cut the hook to length. And today I'm going to be installing these on my external bed mount system. So because the hardware is already built in with these new Apex models, the assembly process is even easier than it was with the original FastGun turnbuckles. Basically, all you have to do is cut your threaded hook to length and screw it in. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to make a mark on the hook where it meets the body of the turnbuckle. And for me, it's pretty close to this end of the hook. Okay, so here's that first mark that I made on the threaded hook, and this will represent where the threaded hook will make contact to the end of the barrel. Now, as per instructions, I've come up 2 7/8 inch on the threaded hook here and made a second mark. And I'll go ahead and cut the hook here at this second mark. And the instructions have a pretty good suggestion, which is to take this nut and thread it all the way up to the end of the rod here between the 2 marks that you just made. And that way, after you cut the rod, you can unscrew this, and it'll help to straighten out any threads that may have gotten bent during the cutting process. Now, I suppose you could use a hacksaw for this, but because I have this chop saw, it's going to be a lot quicker doing it this way. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a standard file and clean up the threads a little bit where I just made the cut. This might be a minor detail, but screwing this hook in is like butter. I saw a bit of anti-seize on the threads, and it looks like there's some oil as well, and that's going to really help to inhibit rust. So to install these, you have a couple of options with regards to setting the internal spring tension. Just like with the original FastGun models, you can disconnect the hook and screw the hook in or out, and then check for correct tension. But on these, you have another option. With the lever up, you can just rotate this body, and that sets the tension, and that saves you the time of having to disconnect this hook every time. Now, this barrel is pretty easy to rotate by hand, and on the Apex model, when you pull this lever down, it actually locks into the barrel here, so you can't turn this, making it impossible to inadvertently change your tension. And that means you don't need a lock nut or anything like that, which makes the whole process toolless. I like that idea. I don't have to go find my wrench every time. And then there's a pin here to make sure that the lever can't come up when you're on the road. Another nice feature is down here on the bottom there's a decal, so you can mark driver's side or passenger side front or rear, so that you can replace the turnbuckle back to its prior position. But in my opinion, the best improvement is the way that you check the tension on these. Instead of having that O-ring that you slide up, these have an indicator that's actually built right into the turnbuckle itself. So as you'll notice, as I start to close the lever, a gap will start to form here. And once I reach the proper tension, a groove will show up there on the bottom of that internal shaft. And to me, that's just a more professional, more convenient, and more consistent way of checking the tension. So as you can see, there was a lot of thought and effort that went into the design of these turnbuckles, and there's nothing else on the market quite like them. Okay, well, installation went perfectly well over on the passenger side, but here on the driver's side, I ran into a small snag. As you can see, I should have a 1/4 of an inch gap here when the tension is set appropriately, but I'm not quite there. And this is as much tension as I can get on this turnbuckle, because in order to increase the tension, I need to shorten the turnbuckle, and I can't run this hook in any further because I've run out of threads down here. So this is as much tension as I can possibly get on this side. Now I think what's happened is the camper has slid over to one side, and the distance between my tie downs over here is just a little bit shorter than it is on the opposite side. So I only needed a couple more threads along this hook here in order to get the appropriate tension set on this side of the camper. So I went online to see if I could find a replacement hook similar to this one that would work in this application, but it had more threads along here, and I wasn't able to find anything initially. But then I realized that the original turnbuckles that I had installed on this camper are using hooks with the same threads as these new hooks. These are 1/2 inch -13 threads, and you'll see that the threads go almost all the way to the end of the hook there. So I think this is going to work, and certainly these hooks will be able to support the weight of the camper. They have the appropriate working load limit. Now these are kind of old and rusty, and I didn't want to put old rusty hooks on these brand new Apex turnbuckles, but I was able to find brand new replacements for these turnbuckles. I'm going to put them in these turnbuckles. Now the only downside to these new hooks here is that they're not stainless steel. I'll need to cut them to length, but I think this is going to work. Okay, I got the right tension now, so problem solved. This little hack worked out pretty well. So I talked to Torklift, and they tell me the minimum allowed distance between tie down points for these new Apex turnbuckles is 21 inches. So I measured the distance on mine, and on the other side of the truck I have 20.5 inches, and that just barely did work with these turnbuckles. Over here it's 20.25 inches, and that didn't work, at least before putting this little hack into place. So I've fed this back to Torklift, and they can decide whether or not it makes sense for them to sometime in the future offer hooks with more threads to broaden the market a bit. But in the meantime, I do like these turnbuckles, and I want to use them right away. So I'm going to continue to utilize my Frankenstein setup for now. So in my last video, I upgraded these original mechanical jack heads with these nice new electric power head units, and it really was a great upgrade, but it did add a bit more bulk and a bit more weight to the camper, and my truck is already pretty close to its upper weight limit. Now I weighed the jacks. Each one weighs about 28.2 pounds each, which is about 113 pounds for the set of 4. And since I typically don't use the jacks when I'm out camping anyway, it feels a bit senseless to be carrying around all that weight all the time. Also, I like to be able to camp in remote camping areas, and this rig is already wide as it is. Now these jacks with these heads, they stick out about 3 inches from the brackets on either side, which is about 6 inches of overall width, and that can mean the difference between being able to access a particular camping spot or not. And now that I have these expensive electric jack heads, I'd really love to be able to take the jacks off, put them in the shop, and store them out of the rain. But with all these nuts and bolts, it's just really not practical to take all these out and then replace them later every time I want to get the jacks on and off. But then I came across these. These are quick release jack brackets from Chainline Design. Now I did buy these with my own money, but Chainline Design gave me a very nice discount. And these will allow me to attach or detach the jacks literally in just a few seconds without any tools, which means I'll be able to instantly drop almost 113 pounds of weight and about 6 inches of overall width. Now there are other jack brackets out on the market, but what really attracted me to these in particular is this integrated camper tie-down point. Now this didn't add any additional cost, but it does provide a little bit more flexibility in case I want to change out my camper in the future or just change out my mounting setup. And I thought that it's never a bad idea to have some extra holes to hang things when you're camping. Okay, so back here on the rear of the camper, I have this stability bracket which doesn't exist in the front. Now the front of the camper is actually heavier than the rear, so I assume that these aren't strictly necessary. So what I'm thinking is I'll probably go ahead and take off this round portion and just get rid of it for now, but I'll keep the square bracket in place just in case I ever want to reattach this. By the way, these nuts and bolts were pretty rusty, so I soaked them in some penetrating oil overnight. Now, at least on my jack, they've put these retainer clips on each of the bolts, and these are not super easy to remove. So I found the best way of doing it is just to get some tension back behind this little retention washer and then screw the bolt out. Okay, so this jack came off the left rear portion of the camper, and this is the back side of the jack. So the jack bracket is going to install this way on the back side of the jack, and I'll use the same hardware that I just took off for this bracket. And then this bracket here, this will go on the camper. And notice you have 3 holes which are biased to one side of the bracket. These holes, you want them to be on the outside of the camper. So this bracket's going to install on the left side, so the holes will be on the left side. And I'm going to be using brand new hardware for this bracket. And the instructions tell you that you want your bolt to be on this side, and then the washer and the lock nut to be on the opposite side toward the camper. And then I'll use anti-seize on all the nuts and bolts before I assemble them, just so they don't get corroded and seized up later. Okay, so starting from the outside, I have my bolt, and then the quick release bracket, and then the boss, and then that's going to install into the existing jack bracket. Then on the back side, I'll have my washer and my lock nut. Then I'll do the same for the bottom hole. And I'll tighten these up, and then the center hole, you leave it alone. The pin is going to go through there later. Okay, so to install the jack, I have these 2 hooks now, which will wrap around the 2 bosses that I installed earlier. And all I need to do is get this bracket into the slot and then push up on the jack, install my pin. Then on the back side, I'll install this clip to retain the pin. And then to get the jack back off, it's just the reverse. Remove my little clip there, lift up on the jack, pull out the pin, and the jack will slide right out. Okay, I got all 4 jack brackets installed now. It really was a very quick, simple, and easy process. And getting the jacks on and off now is almost ridiculously easy. So I think this is going to work out really well. Now I just need to lift up the camper and see if these new brackets will hold up to the weight. All right, the brackets are definitely holding up to the weight of the camper. I think this is going to work out really well. So I should mention that these are stainless steel with a nice matte finish, and all 4 bracket sets fit like a glove, everything lined up perfectly. And because this single pin holds up the jack, you saw how quickly they came off, but with that, use some caution, because the idea here is that you can leave your jacks at home. If you were tempted to drive down a bumpy road with these in place and the clip on the back fell out and then the pin were to wiggle loose, then your jack would be on the road somewhere. So I might advise that loading the jacks into your truck or camper would be a safer option if you need to transport them. All right, well, I got all the jacks removed, and I have to say the camper looks a lot more sleek now and more sort of off-road worthy, if you will. And taking off the jacks should help with wind resistance as well. And now that I have these extra holes, I thought maybe I might want to put a lantern over here by the door when I'm camping. And over here, this one might be good to Put a little garbage bag outside. And check this out, I made something for back here as well. Now I can hang a couple of wet towels and maybe some laundry. Well, I'm really happy with the way these upgrades turned out. The Torklift Apex turnbuckles have some really amazing design elements, and the Chainline Design jack brackets are helping me shave off a bunch of weight and some camper width as well. Now, both of these products happen to be made here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm quite happy to have their products on my camper. Now, let me know what you think about these products and whether or not this video was interesting or useful down in the comments section, and we'll see you next time.